Hey guys! So thanks for coming. This is hopefully one of many of performances of Broadway at Google Talks. So thank you. We are fortunate enough to have some of the cast and creative from Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella with us here today. Yay! So yeah, we're gonna get started with two numbers, and then we're gonna go into Q&A, and there'll be microphones set up on either side. So this is being recorded. Make sure you use the microphones for your questions. We'll give you swag to reward you, and it'll be fun. And that'll be that. So first, Cinderella, I know. So first off, recently on Broadway as Sister Mary Robert in Sister Act. She has appeared on Broadway in South Pacific and on the first national tour of The Drowsy Chaperone. Also, regional theater productions include 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, Wild Party, and Songs for a New World. Marla Mindelle. Come on. That's only half of your resume. And we also have she originated the role of Christmas Eve in Avenue Q on Broadway and appeared in the original London cast of the same musical. Other Broadway appearances include 9 to 5, Madame Thénardier in the revival of Les Mis and Butterfly, and has also recently played Linda, the stage manager of Bombshell on the TV series Smash, and Harada. She won the 2002 Tony and Drama Desk Award for Featured Actress in a Musical and her performance in Thoroughly Modern Millie. Other Broadway credits include Present Laughter, Crybaby, Old Acquaintance, and The Man Who Came to Dinner, and known to TV audiences for her memorable roles on Frasier and Desperate Housewives, Harriet Harris. And then lastly, but not leastly, for this introductory set, nominated for the Tony Award for her current performance as Cinderella and her performance as in Frank Wildhorn's Bonnie and Clyde. She also starred as Nellie Forbush in South Pacific and appeared in the recent revival of Anything Goes. She made her Broadway debut as Sandy in Grease, having won NBC's reality competition, Grease, You're the One That I Want, Laura Osnes.
When you're driving through the moonlight on the highway, when you're driving through the moonlight to the dance, you are breathless with a wild anticipation of adventure and excitement and romance. Then at last you see the towers of the palace, silhouetted on the sky above the park, and below them is a row of lighted windows, like a lovely diamond necklace in the dark.
It looks that way.
The way you say.
She talks as if she knows.
I do not know these things are so. I only just suppose. I suppose that when you come into the ballroom and the room itself is floating in the air, if you're suddenly confronted by His Highness, you are frozen like a statue on the stair. You're afraid he'll hear the way your heart is beating, and you know you mustn't make the first advance. You are seriously thinking of retreating. Then you seem to hear him asking you to dance. You make a bow, a timid bow, and shyly answer yes.
How would you know that this is so?
I do no more than guess.
You can guess till you're blue in the face, but you can't even picture such a man. He is more than a prince, he's an ace.
But sisters, I really think I can.
Can what?
I think that I can picture such a man.
He is tall
And straight as a lance,
and his hair
is dark and wavy,
is
can melt you with a glance.
I'm throwing caution to the wind. I am imagining it as well.
Oh, I imagine what that girl would be feeling when dancing with the prince. A lovely night, a lovely night, a finer night you know you'll never see. You meet your prince, a charming prince, as charming as a prince will ever be. The stars in a hazy heaven tremble above you while he's whispering, darling, I love you. You say goodbye, away you fly, but on your lips you keep a kiss. All your life you'll dream of this lovely, lovely night.
Charlotte!
Huh?
Play the pianoforte.
Oh, yes, Charlotte, please do.
Okay, but it's not gonna be good.
A lovely night, a lovely night,
A finer night you know you'll never see. La 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 la.
You meet
Your
prince,
prince,
a charming prince, as charming as a prince will ever be. The stars in a hazy heaven tremble above you while he is whispering,
I love you.
you say goodbye, away you fly, but on your lips you keep a kiss.
All your life you'll dream of this
Lovely, lovely night. The stars in a hazy heaven tremble above you while he's whispering,
Darling, I love you.
you say goodbye, away you fly, but on your lips you keep a kiss. All your life you'll dream of this lovely, 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 lovely night.
Joining us now, Tony Award nominated for his performance as the Prince. His Broadway credits include The Importance of Being Earnest, Brighton Beach Memoirs, for which he received a 2010 Drama Desk Award, Billy Elliot the Musical, and the 2007 revival of Sunday in the Park with George, Santino Fontana. Where are you? There you are.
Where's your name tag? We switched.
I took it off. I'm a rebel. Don't erase
Santino
me.
Fontana.
Okay. 10 minutes ago, I saw you. I looked up when you came through the door. My head started reeling. You gave me the feeling the room had no ceiling or floor. 10 minutes ago, I met you. And we murmured our how do you do's. I wanted to ring out the bells and fling out my arms and to sing out the news. I have found her, she's an angel with the dust of the stars in her eyes. We are dancing, we are flying, and she's taking me back to the skies. In the arms of my love, I'm flying over mountain and meadow and glen. And I like it so well that for all I can tell, I may never come down again. I may never come down to earth again.
10 minutes ago I met you, and we murmured our how do you do's. I wanted to ring out the bells and fling out my arms and to sing out the wings of my love, I'm flying over mountain and meadow and glen. And I like it so well that for all I can tell, I may never come down again.
I may never come down to earth again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's give him another round of applause. Come back on the stage. And then lastly, part of the creative side, he is the president and executive director of the Rodgers and Hammerstein and Imagine Company. Do I say that right? All right. He serves on several boards, including Godspeed's Musical and New Music USA and New York City Center, and has served as the Tony Award nominated Tony Awards nominated for 2 seasons, and is currently a member of the Tony Administration Committee. Ted Chapin. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So sorry about the name, Santino.
No, please. I've been called much worse.
Thank you.
Anytime.
I butchered his last name, so you guys don't know that, but I called it out.
It's fine.
Good. So I guess let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Thank you. So Cinderella, of course, was commissioned by CBS to be produced for TV back in 1957, broadcast live on March 31st, 1957. Surrounding all of that, there's a lot of reasoning, I guess, why it was brought back or what brought to Broadway in the first place. So, like, Ted, you were kind of the inspiration behind getting it from there to here?
Well, do you want me to just...
No, we're recording, so we need a mic, yeah. Yeah, let's get a mic down here.
I mean, part of the fun of my job, that's aside from hearing spontaneous performances of songs from other Rodgers and Hammerstein shows, like start at the very beginning, the Rodgers and Hammerstein catalog is an extraordinary collection of musicals, as you, I hope, all know. But there's always a creative side that you never can tell where it's going to happen and how. One of the lead producers of Cinderella is Robin Goodman, and she and I happen to be on a trip that a Broadway producer named Manny Eisenberg does to Israel every year. And it's basically a trip for people, Weisenheimers who work in the theater, to see this part of the world. You just see this part of the world. And since my mother's family came over on the Mayflower, I kept saying to Manny, why are you asking me about this trip? It doesn't make any sense. So the only way to shut him up was to go. So I went on a trip about 5 years ago, and Robin Goodman was on the trip, and we just hit it off. And she said to me at one point, gee, we're having such a good time together. Is there something we could work on? And I said, no one's ever actually thought about or figured out how to take the television version of Cinderella that Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote and adapt it to a Broadway show. So, what about that? And she started to think, wouldn't it be great to make a modern Cinderella who stands up for herself a little more? And so basically that's where it started. And just over the years, just one good idea after another happened. And so, here we are with all of these people doing incredible honor to this show.
Nice. So talk about, I guess, from the audition side of things, from the very beginning, I guess, and I'm not making the pun again, that you start with a script and you go through revisions and you need to find a book writer, and you go through, like, what is it? You go through table readings and find people to do so. And how did you find these people?
Well, in the good old days of Broadway, you would write a script and take it out of town and do it in Boston or Philadelphia or Washington or a couple of those places and listen to those audiences and make the adjustments and then come into town. That's pretty prohibitively expensive these days. So the thing that Robin and her compadre Jill Furman, who's here, were very smart about is, starting with a very simple reading. There are all these things available, readings, workshops, and they kind of used every version of it to get the project to the next step. The very first reading, which was very informal, and Laura was in it, And I mean, remember my comment about it was very funny and very good, but they didn't, I think, pay enough attention to the music. So I just said, to Robin, you can't really do this without paying attention to both the music that exists and whatever new music's going to be put in there. Because if somebody like Douglas Carter Bean, who has a very modern, edgy sense of humor and sensibility, if that's going to match with the kind of romance of what Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote, that's going to be very tricky. And I think that was the biggest challenge. And I have to say that this team really honed that right up to opening night, how to make certain that the humor is right for the songs and the songs come out of the story. And I have to say, of all the shows I've worked on in my days at R&H, this was among the more, first of all, joyous, because I think everybody had sure, there were the ups and downs, there always are, but it was a really, really joyous, positive experience. And just going backstage, they're seeming to have a very good time. Either you're really, really good actors or you really are having a good time.
So Laura, you were involved from the book reading at the beginning, right?
Yes, that one he was talking about was literally an afternoon where we got together and literally read it out loud one time through. It was a very quick thing. And then it was about 6 months of we didn't hear anything, or 8 months or whatever it was. And then our first reading with all of these folks was January of 2012, so a year and a half ago. And we did a workshop last summer, like a 4-week-long workshop where we pretty much staged the whole thing in a rehearsal studio with, framework sets and even choreographed numbers, and were memorized and all of that. And then did another reading last October of 2012, and then we started rehearsal in December. So it's been really exciting to see, the changes in the show and how it's developed over time. But I have to say, I think the brunt of the changes came during previews on Broadway. Even though we had a year to kind of prepare and shift things and, make it better and better, I feel like most of the changes happened once we had a real audience and we were getting real feedback from real people who were going to come see the show.
So for those who don't know, what are previews?
Previews is the month long period before a show officially opens on Broadway, and every Broadway show has a season of previews. So we had about 41 performances. It's usually about a month long, where we're still rehearsing during the day and performing every night. And I mean,
it's like beta. I know my audience.
There we go. So yeah, and it's we're still making changes every day. We're rehearsing. We're getting new script changes based on how the previous night's audience responded. So if jokes aren't getting laughs, 3 nights in a row, maybe that joke gets cut, or maybe it gets changed. Or if a song isn't working, maybe the song either gets cut or shifted, or things like that. So during previews, the show is constantly changing, and then just a few days before previews, we freeze the show for opening night, and from opening night on, it's the same show.
So, Marla, maybe you can speak to this. Is there anything major that ever does get cut from shows?
Wah, wah.
Leading question.
Yes, my character and another character, I think, took a lot of the brunt of the changes because our characters are different than the originally conceived story, as we all know. There are 2 evil stepsisters usually, and in this version, I'm actually very nice and very shy, and I have a crush on somebody else who is not the prince. He is a revolutionary named Jean-Michel, and so him and I have this plot B love story going on, and we had this lovely little duet that just wasn't working, and so that got cut maybe 2 weeks into previews, and so it was it's I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit sad because you work on something for so long and it becomes second nature, and it was a nice little moment, but in the grand scheme of the show, it just wasn't working, so it had to go. But for those 2 weeks, we had a great time on stage together, singing and dancing our little number. And also, Harriet Ann and I had a number in the first act that was also cut about 2 weeks in. So yeah, it was tricky, but life goes on, and we still have a good time. Yeah.
Oh, incidentally, we do have. Let's see what we have in the goodie bag. We've got some. What's it? Programs. We got some programs here. These are your incentives for getting up at the microphones and asking questions. So we've got some of that, and then what else is in here?
Lighting. That's cool.
CDs. of the score, which is all these guys singing, which is available. I wrote it down so I don't get it wrong. On iTunes, I can remember that, and Ghost Light Records. So there you go. Ask some questions, get some stuff. Harriet. Harriet, what is it like working with Anne and Marla? You guys have your own, I mean, I've seen the show, right? And typically, like Marla said, the stepsisters are all together, they're evil, and with the stepmama, and they're always trying to do bad things to everyone. But now it's like Marla's off on her own thing, doing her own thing. Like, how do you balance that on stage with?
I think the mother has goals for these girls, so she's unaware to some extent, like a lot of mothers are, that the children are growing up and going their own way, and she has a vision for what would make a better life for these girls. And in her world, the only way to have a good life, she's not a very modern woman, the only way to have a good life is to marry a man with money. And in that world in which she grew up, that's how you do it. And she doesn't see how her girls can live without that. I think she feels that either Marla is the eldest and should marry first because that's the way it used to be, or maybe perhaps she knows what the prince likes, so she's going to push Marla. If Anne were the one that the prince would like, I'd push Anne in hopes that then that Marla would get a good husband. But it's all about that for her. So I can't. She doesn't see that there's a romance developing with a very young poor revolutionary, because who would choose that, frankly? So in her world, who would do that? So I think that's a lot of it. There's a blind spot that she has about her kids, and assuming, like a lot of parents do, you will want to join the family business, you will want to live the life I've lived, you will learn by my experience. And she does. The song that was that we had that was cut was about learn from my experience. I married for love, it doesn't work out. What you need stability, you need this, and the way to get it in this world is you get a man. So that's what her goals are for the daughters, and it's fun to work with. As actresses, they're really fun to work with.
We're just divas, just three.
They're really adorable.
We've been around each other so much that we start coordinating our outfits without even calling each other. We all showed up matching. So.
And Laura too. I mean, because we're almost always all together, it's a very peculiar little family dynamic, and we're always adversarial, even if people aren't maybe passively supportive of Laura in the household. She's the brunt of so many things, and of so much bad behavior on my part anyway. But things, it's wonderfully strung together, and it is different than just the normal Cinderella.
So, Santino, do you feel left out? Are you lonely?
No, not at all. I feel great.
You have your band of merry men?
I do. This version is basically I originally didn't have any interest in being in Cinderella or playing the prince, because we don't typically know anything about the prince. We know nothing about his personality or anything. And then when I got this script, which Douglas Carter Bean had written after Ted and Robin got together, his very first line, I can say that, right? Should I not say that? I can say that. So the very first line in the script, the very original script, it's slightly changed. He slays a giant, first of all. And then on top of the giant, he says, "I just wish I was doing something more important with my life." and I laughed, and I was like, okay, this is great. So he doesn't know how to be. He's also he has no parents. His parents passed away, and he's kind of rudderless and trying to figure out who should I be, and how should I be, and how can I be a good king. And he also is very empathic, and he has he worries about the people of his kingdom, and he is actually fairly alone through the play. There's a great actor, Peter Bartlett, who plays kind of his advisor, and he's corrupt and trying to get power for himself. And I discover that through the show. But that's already so much more complex than what we're used to. But I also think with a modern audience, you don't want to root for the girl to fall in love with a guy we don't know. Now we're like, oh yes, he's tall, go. Like, that's not enough anymore. You're like, he may abuse you. We don't know anything about him. or he could be too stupid for you. I think what's great is kind of embracing that, and that what makes somebody charming has less to do with what they look like and more to do with what they do.
You have a name. You're not Prince Charming.
Exactly. His name is Topher. He chose that. It's Christopher.
Short for Christopher.
Short for Christopher.
Christopher.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, but it's a great time. But he specifically, I'm off stage I'm off stage like half the show, and people always, I think I'm on stage more because I'm always talked about. Because as Harriet explained, in this world, everybody wants to be, the prince is looking for a wife. And so that's the quickest way to, get something to happen. But
cool. So talking about, I'm going to go back to the audition process because the whole behind the scenes aspect of all of this really always has intrigued me and always has interested me. When each of you take turns, I guess, when did you get involved, and at what point were you like, yep, this is my next role, I want to do this is great, show me the money?
This is a very boring answer for this particular show, because we were all called and said, would you like to do a reading of Cinderella? And I said, yes, I would. So we showed up in January of 2012, and we worked for a week together, and we did a reading.
All of us.
All of us. And that was it. We never auditioned. That was it. It was like, we like you. Okay, thanks. That was awesome. And, and I went home, and I thought, if this actually comes to Broadway, this will be my next Broadway show. But I don't know if it's going to come to Broadway, because we are always involved in readings and things where they say, we are on a fast track to Broadway. And and it never happens. I mean, I'm sure we all have many, many shows we could say that about. So, it was thrilling to be a part of that idea, and the idea that somebody had actually picked us and handpicked us and said, we think you'd be right for these roles is fantastic. But we didn't audition.
How much of the score did you know beforehand, all of you?
All.
I didn't. I knew when I was doing the play. Oh, sorry. The play I was doing before. This. Robin Goodman, the producer, also produced that play. And when she gave me the script, I was like humming 10 minutes ago. That's the only song I knew. I really knew from it. So I was pretty new to it. But you knew all of it.
No, I knew in my own little corner. I had sung that song, which is Cinderella's kind of I Want song, her first song in the show. And I had learned it in voice lessons when I was like 10 years old. And then I remember being familiar with 10 Minutes Ago and familiar with some of the other songs, but only because I had heard them somewhere in my psyche of growing up, which is true of many Rodgers and Hammerstein songs. I did not grow up watching the movie. I still have not seen. I saw the Brandy version once in like 1994 or whenever it came out. But that's kind of it. So I was familiar.
Why did you say the Brandy version, not the Whitney Houston version?
Because Brandy played Cinderella.
It's
Whitney Houston.
Whitney produced it.
But have you seen it?
Love it. Yes, I've seen it.
Well, it's not really her movie.
But it's Whitney Houston.
But it's Brandy's movie.
Whatever.
It's called Cinderella.
I feel bad for her. That's all.
Like generalizing, backing up, are there any auditions in your past, in your career, that you have gone into and you're like, God, I screwed this up? And
we've never auditioned. None of us. Yes. We've never auditioned. We're only offer only. That's all of us.
And it always works out.
Like yesterday.
It's just amazing.
Yesterday, I had a call back for something like in the morning in Brooklyn by the water at 11 a.m. And I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Like, 11 a.m. is early?
Yes.
That's like 6 a.m.
I get done at 11 p.m. We get out of the show at 10:30. You go home at 11, then you eat. You go to sleep at 2 or whatever, if you go to sleep. And then she goes to a lot of bars. Kidding. She doesn't drink.
Water.
No, what I'm saying is, no, that happens all the time. Yes, constantly. It's like a job interview constantly. You're constantly on a job interview. Without this, we were just talking about what's so lovely here. We had a tour of the building, and it seems like such a safe and I'm sure you all have opinions about that as well. But it seems from our point of view, it's such there's so many things here to support you, so you're trying something new, and if it fails and you're moving towards something, but you keep having small failures along the way, you have the security of knowing I can come back tomorrow and play pool over there, and then go over there. We are, in our apartments alone with a piece of paper, and we're trying to make that piece of paper come to life alone. And then it's on us to go into a room and create a reality that doesn't exist for somebody on another side of a table who has to judge that. And that's constant. So that kind of job interview process is something that's very normal to us and something we're very used to.
So, life of an actor, you just described the awesome sauce that makes auditions. Talking about, I guess, wider picture still, like backing up, you said as a young strapping lad, you said, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be on stage. And like, what made you want to do that? What made you want to be like, all of you? When did you decide this is for me? I want to struggle and possibly wait tables my whole life. And
I never, everyone says, I never felt like
Waited tables.
I never agreed to say, I never felt like I want to struggle. But I'd have to say, now in hindsight, I can say, yeah, whoa, I was struggling in that point. But while I was in it, I've never felt like it was, someone asked us the other day, when did you decide to sacrifice so many things for this? And it's never felt like a sacrifice because it's what I love. And I wanted to be like a baseball player in high school, and that was it was between baseball and this. And the funny thing is, there's a girl from my high school who works at Google, Kelly Wiles, and she's on vacation, bitch. And I'm kidding. I love her. And but I remember thinking when I finally was like, no, I'm better at this, and it brings me more joy than anything else. Then there is no sacrifice and there is no struggle. It's just what you do.
And the rest of you have similar stories?
From the womb, I wanted to perform and struggle. My father wrote music, and my mother would, when I was inside her belly, would be playing Evita and all these musicals. And I really think that I was genetically programmed to pop out and want to do this for a living, because I was surrounded by it 24/7. And I got into basketball. I was a sports person, but then in high school, I was just like, I just got to pursue this. And so, I went to college for it, and then, got lucky, and here I am with these fine people.
So Harriet and Anne, you guys have some TV experience as well. Like, waking up in the morning, do you choose theater? Do you choose TV? Which one? You're giving me a funny look over there. Like, what?
Well, right now I'm choosing theater.
Right. If you could pick one to do.
I wouldn't want to do that.
TV?
No, at this point I wouldn't want to do it. I like change. It's like working on different projects. It is a very different thing to do. And for the first, I've been an actress so long, and that was part of it. And you get better and better and better usually as you do it, and you start to think, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. The thing that used to be such a challenge isn't a challenge anymore, and I have to figure out how to do something else because I know how to do this. I can break down a scene. I know what the story is. I know how to tell the story. I know how to do the jokes, and there were so many things that I just thought you could get carpal tunnel syndrome from being an actor if you don't do a lot of different kinds of things. So I went with a play out to California, and suddenly there was an opportunity to start doing television, and I didn't know how to do it. And I thought, this is great. I use some of the same tools. I'm pursuing the same sorts of things, but I have to learn how to use them differently, and I have to grab different tools from the box that I didn't even know those tools were in that box. So I liked that, and then I got sort of proficient at that, and I thought, I really don't know anything about musicals. And somebody asked me to do a musical. I went, yeah, that would be really exciting to do. So that, I think, is important to keep doing different things and challenging oneself. And to say I'm only doing this from now on, I don't think I'd like to do that.
Well, okay. So there's certain things of each that you like more at different times, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the big difference, though?
You just have to, it's the difference between say talking to your best friend and yelling at them and whispering to them. It's the same relationship to, the same overall relationship and a different way of expressing oneself. And I think you want both of those things in a real relationship. Maybe you don't spend most of your time talking to your best friend whispering or shouting, but that exists, and so that it's nice to have that spectrum.
Is there a question over here? I'm sorry.
Hi. First, I just want to say you guys are all absolutely amazing. I haven't gotten a chance to see the performance yet, but I'm very excited. I'm going to go out and buy my tickets after this. I actually grew up watching the original, not the Brandy version. My question is, I'm actually a bit of a purist. I find that I love the originals, and I find myself going back to them over and over. I like the Brandy one, but the original was my favorite. Have you felt that there's been any backlash or unhappiness from people that you've changed the story, the characters are slightly different, that you didn't kind of stick to the original? Not that I don't love this version, but just curious what
Which, when you say the original, was that the Julie Andrews one or the Leslie Ann Warren one?
The Leslie Ann Warren one.
So that was actually the second one. But no, this is perfect, and it's also hilarious to me that you work at Google, which is the most progressive company in the world. But the nature of, there is actually no original. Perrault wrote a French fairy tale, which actually had 3 balls, where they'd dance, and then she would run away, and he'd be like, God, I wish she could come back. And then there would be a second ball, and then he'd be like, God, I wish she should come back. And then the third ball, she left her shoe. So then we have somehow, with the help of Disney and Rodgers and Hammerstein, we've changed that story as time has moved on. And so the original Julie Andrews version, which was shorter actually even than the Leslie Ann Warren version, which is also a different script than they're both different scripts, which is also different from the Brandy version, which has a Rodgers and Hart song in it. So it's truly a living thing. It really doesn't have an original. That said, yes, I think there are people who come. There are people who come expecting the Disney cartoon, and are wondering why the mice don't sing,
And why I'm not blonde.
and why she's not blonde. So, and that's to say, hey, people have strong emotional reactions to all different forms of art in all different times, and we want to be able we respect that and totally uphold that. At the same time, our version is just this version, and but every version, there isn't actually an original. That's kind of the biggest. It's been adjusted every time, and so is Hamlet. There's quarto versions. There's a second quarto. I love when there's purists for Shakespeare, and they're like, "Why did you cut, this line from Act 2, Scene 3?" And I'm like, "Well, that's the quarto. We're doing the folio." So there's always a living, breathing thing. And I love that, because I love that that's what we do. Something that's so alive it can't stay still, and if you try to trap it, it won't work.
But there are people at the end of the show. There's usually people lined up, and it's very sweet. Some of them are children, some of them are grown women with crowns on, and that want to have their playbill signed. And sometimes people do say, I love the show, but I'm struggling with a couple of things about. You think you're struggling about Cinderella? You're struggling about what must your life be like? But there are a couple of things in the show that are significantly different, and most people adore that, and most people go, I really thought I knew it, and I'm so thrilled that there's a reason to come back for the second act. So it's the choices that were made, I think, make it a little more titillating for people to come back.
I
again.
personally guarantee that this is as true in spirit to that version that is in your head, because there's no way I would have done this show if I thought it was in any way disrespectful or untrue to what the themes are in that. I revere the R&H canon. I've seen every movie, every blah blah, every iteration of this story so far, and it's a new version, and yes, some things might throw you a little bit, but I promise you will feel the same feelings.
That's it.
You'll feel all the feelings.
We're
shot at that.
Yeah, we're running short on time. Yeah.
Just that I'm usually the one who gets it in the neck for having been impure about things Rodgers and Hammerstein. And so I like hearing this because the fact is it has been changed every time slightly. But the thing I wanted to say is one of the challenges when you do something like this and you take what was basically 70 minutes of material in 1957 and make it into a Broadway show, and you have to add to the score. And I think the reason that the two songs that you heard about earlier that ended up not being in is because what you don't have a composer and lyricist in the room to whom you can say, could you change that song a little bit? You kind of have the song that we have in the files to offer, and they did both of those songs. They did incredibly well. The problem was not them. The problem was the material, and it just didn't really support what the entire rest of the show was. And that's a challenge when you do something like this, where you're taking the basics of something from before and adding to it. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Over here.
Hi, I saw this show a couple weeks ago and I really loved it. One of the things that really impressed me about the show was the costumes of the show, and especially Cinderella and Fairy Godmother had these like huge transformations where one minute they were in plain clothes and the next minute they were suddenly in these like giant, ball gowns. And I want to know, like, what was it like working with those costumes, like maybe more directed toward Laura? Like, how easy was it to set up that costume and then unleash it? And just in general, like, how did you guys manage such like quick costume changes sometimes? Like, you'll bounce out and all of a sudden you're in a completely new dress and completely new hair, and it just like baffled me and was amazing.
I'm so glad. Has anyone else seen the show here by raising hands? A few people? That's great. The costume changes are really amazing, and William Ivy Long, our costume designer, won the Tony Award for his costume design for our show, and it's so rightly deserved because the design behind these transformation costumes is flawless. It's absolutely amazing, and I think revolutionary in the world of theater quick changes. I have 3 transformations in the show, and they all happen. Unfortunately, I can't really reveal any of the secrets to you, but they all happen in front of your eyes. We don't use any body doubles. We don't do blackouts. It's literally like pull a thing.
There's no fog either.
There's no fog. Yeah, it all like happens. And everyone's like, how did you do it? And I'm like, if you watch, you could know. But it all happens so fast, and it's the design behind it is kind of foolproof. I always tell people the very first time I did the transformations, like in the costume shop with like burlap fabric, like in the like pre-test versions, they worked. So it was a matter of like finessing it to make it look natural and make it look like it was happening to me as opposed to me doing it to myself. I'm pretty much in charge of my quick changes, which is awesome and terrifying at the same time. But we haven't had any disasters yet, and I always love hearing the audience reactions. But it took a little finessing and a little practice, but the design behind it, it's like snaps and Velcro, which work. We're not relying on technology and things like that. So it's pretty exciting.
So we are right at 2:45. If you've got Ted's got a call with Japan. I think you got to go in. Yeah.
If you want, we could stay.
Yeah, Laura, you got to go too, right?
I do, unfortunately.
Yeah. So.
Sure.
But we'll stay.
Okay.
Just a couple.
Yeah, good. Yeah, right. I was going to
Suddenly,
ask
there's
you.
lots of interest and questions.
Yes. And if you've thank you so much. So if you are asking questions, come see me afterwards, and I'll give you some swag. Okay, yeah. You've been waiting for a while.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about having seen all 3 incarnations, from the Julie Andrews version to the Leslie Ann Warren version to this version. The character has changed, but the character has stayed the same, but society has changed. It interests me what, I guess, the book writer was told and how to make it something that's accessible to girls in the 21st century as opposed to girls just post-World War II. Mm-hmm. Oh, but I guess there's nobody there who can answer.
Well, no, I think Douglas. Well, no, that's Douglas. I mean, I think the producers, at the core of Cinderella's story is that somebody comes from, seemingly nothing and has something. And there's also romance tied in there, that somebody is needed on a personal level with somebody else. That's like kind of the core story. And I think Doug had it. He had political stuff that he wanted to play with, and because he wanted to expand those characters, and suddenly Jean-Michel popped into his head, and everybody's feelings about that. And also, I think he dealt with the prince as a human being. If the prince is a prince, a huge part of his life is the kingdom. So to not deal with it in those other versions in any political or social way is kind of cutting the prince off at the knees. And so in engaging with that, he suddenly had a bunch of stuff to play with, I think.
And in terms of Cinderella's change, I think what Robin felt and what Doug felt was that Cinderella needs to be able to help the prince just as much as he helps her. That they will be a marriage of equals, not he is elevating her. Yes, of course he is elevating her socially and economically, but that as people, it's not just like, you're super pretty in a white dress, let's get married, which is sort of the undercurrent of all previous versions of Cinderella. This is, we have something in common. We share something. I can talk to you. I can't talk to anybody else. Do you know what I mean? There's that connection in this version that we're trying so hard for girls to see. No, look, see, it's not just enough like he's cute and he's rich. You have to care about that he's a good person and he cares that you're a good person. That's part of it.
And thank God that he did that, because I think there are a lot of people who do come up and say, thank you so much for not making having my daughter want to wear a tiara with the wish that she'll meet some guy who will just sweep her off her feet and everything will be fine. But it, goes farther.
Over here.
Hi, I just wanted to say I think you guys are amazing. I saw the show also, and it was great. I'm going to deviate from all these Cinderella virgin questions, and I know you guys were talking about how, 11 a.m. is kind of early, and, for us here, 11 a.m. is kind of late. It's not late. People come in at 11 a.m. It's possible, but I was just wondering, I guess, what your, typical day is like. I know sometimes you guys have 2 show days versus 1 show days. What is it like to be living, I guess, the Broadway dream? Yes.
Well, we have 8 shows a week, so we have Sunday nights and Mondays are our weekends. And I always say, when you guys are coming home from work, we're always going to work, so we're on a completely opposite schedule. We end usually around 10 or 11, and then you got to wind down. So then it's 2 a.m. and you're going to bed. You're waking up at around 10:30 or 11, and that's early for us. And then you either have another show or you have an audition that you have to prepare for. Or you go to the gym, or your daytime is your free time, but you always have the show. At least I do anyway. It's always about getting to the show and making sure that I'm eating the right things for the show, that I have enough rest for the show, that I feel well enough to do the show. Anyone else?
I have a kid, so I get up early.
How early? How early?
Well, now that he's older, it's really good because I can leave out a bowl of cereal the night before and tell him your milk is in the fridge. Just get it out of the door. And that buys me an extra 20 minutes in the morning if he can do that. Do you know what I mean? And then I still have to throw his clothes at him and make sure he brushes his teeth and stuff. And then I take him to camp or school or whatever the heck it is first thing in the morning that children do. And then I come home and I try to take a nap because I've died. Because I'm on Marla's schedule. I can't just go right to bed after the show. I have to eat and unwind and whatever, and so it's 2:00.
Watch reality TV.
How about yesterday?
Oh, so yesterday we had an appearance on the Live with Kelly and Michael show, which meant that me and some of the other women in the ensemble had to be at the studio at 7:15
in the morning.
A.M. In the morning, a.m.
Okay.
Which is unacceptable for us.
It's not a good time.
That's early for us too.
That's right. That would be early for anybody. And when they do the Today Show, it's a 5:30 call. Or yes, then we had 2 shows. So then it was we did that first thing in the morning, and then I went to the theater, tried to take a little nap. Then we had show 1 at 2:00. Then we had show 2 at 7:30. By the end of the day, literally, I was dead, fried. I had no concept of time. I did not know where I was. But that's sort of what it is. You try to sleep when you can sleep, and you have your life. Everybody's the same. We all have our things outside of work that take up our time that we need to get done, and then also do our jobs. So we as actors tend to push more towards later in the day because that's when we work. But
But when you get older, you can't sleep that late. So I wake up at 6:20 and I stay quiet for as much as I can. I can't sleep past it. And I read for a while. I have birds, so I try to be very quiet so the birds don't wake up. And I don't wake up my sweetheart.
What?
And then around 8:30, if they aren't all awake, then they have to get up.
You gotta.
Because my day has to begin at some point. So, but it is, and it's a very difficult schedule. TV's a much easier schedule because I wake up early, and in California I wake up and I have a cup of coffee and I'm going out and I'm smashing aphids on my roses and doing interesting things that occupy my time in New York. I'm sitting in my room. Trying to turn the page ever so quiet.
Cool. Yeah, over here.
Okay, so side note, I'm still mourning Smash, and I'm so excited to see this other side of your acting today.
You're so sweet.
Second of all, so you're also casually talking about auditioning, and in the corporate world, it's like, oh, I'm tiptoeing out at lunch hour to go on an interview. So is it very normal for you to just be auditioning for other projects while you're working on this?
Well, they're all different. I mean, the audition I was talking about the other day, it's like there are voiceovers that I'm the voice of headaches where Excedrin excels.
That's you?
You know, so there are, Google it, please. Go buy some Excedrin. It'll help me. But, so that doesn't conflict. Yeah. And there are also things that work around your schedule that don't conflict. And then there's also a time when some things you audition for and they won't happen until next year. Like or a writer wants to meet with you because they have an idea for a part that they're looking to do in 2015. So you can go out and do, we all know the nature of theater is it comes and it goes. So you're always looking.
You're always looking for the next job, even when you have a job, which
doesn't mean you're going to take the other one either.
Right.
But.
And we have a contract. We know how long the contract is, and we don't know if the show extends beyond the contract, if that will impact on our lives or not. So you do have to keep an eye towards the future because you can't depend on anything really. Mm-hmm. Google's probably going to be here tomorrow. So
show business, not so much.
Cinderella will be too, but
sure.
Yes,
but.
I guess worst case, knock on chair, that a show unexpectedly gets canceled. That ends your contract early, and you have no control.
Correct.
So so you've got to, you got to be doing the next thing.
We've been very fortunate. Who doesn't love Cinderella? Who doesn't want to come see the show? And every child wants their family to take it. So our ticket sales have been doing, very, very well, which is great. Which means that we have a job. For at least, we have a year contract? Mm-hmm. So we started in January, which means that this January our contract will be up and we can choose to resign or we can choose to end the contract and look for our next thing. Yeah. Or we can get fired.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. I hope.
Over here.
Hi. Okay, my question is kind of cliche, but if you could give one piece of advice to people who want to do this for a living, what would it be?
She's a visitor. She's not a Googler. I look.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Going on secret job interviews / auditions. Oh gosh, we all have such different pieces of advice. I always talk about going to a good college, but if you haven't gone to a good college, oof. I try to. Well, no, not. You know what I mean. Like if you
then
went for accounting for
kill the dream.
Let me see if I can lead you guys here. In my experience, I used to perform too as well, and that's why I breathe them in. The people I see succeed over those who don't are those who know how to market themselves.
Interesting.
I don't see it that way at all.
I have to say, I'm a terrible marketer of myself.
He sucks.
I'm terrible. I'd rather be I'm 2 steps away from a homeless person. Just put me in a corner with some food, just leave me alone. I'm a terrible marketer myself. I think the cliche, I understand your question, you're commenting that you feel like it's cliche. The answer is somewhat cliche, sadly, that first of all, you just got to do it. And the operative word there is do. So if you want to be an actor, you got to be acting. And that doesn't mean necessarily on Broadway. That means in a class, or that means because identifying what you want to do is, first of all, honing in on what that really specifically means. I was talking to a student who asked, I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that? I was like, well, what do you want to do? I want to be an actor. What kind of things do you want to? So you want to tell stories as characters? Yes. What kind of stories? Well, musicals. Okay, well, that's very different than if you want to go be in movies or television, or if you want to be in straight plays. If you want to do classical theater, you need another understanding. You need to be able to do verse. You need to be able to there's so many skills that are potentially required. First, what is most important is to identify which skills do you need to go after. Because what do you really want to do? What speaks to you? And that's easy because you can go out and find that. And it's a process. My biggest advice really would be to take any sense of pressure off of your shoulders. Morgan Freeman was 40 when he made his first movie. James Gandolfini, who just passed, was in his, he didn't come to acting until after college. There's no rush. There's no rush. There's 8 million ways to skin that cat, but you have to go after it, and you can do that while you're doing other things.
If you guys could do any role from any time ever, what would you do?
You mean Broadway?
Anything. Oh, yeah, let's stick to Broadway. Let's focus this. We'll say Broadway anywhere.
Such hard-hitting questions.
Let's get to the meat of the situation, Marla.
Oh gosh, Evita. I've always wanted to be Elphaba, just for 1 week though, because it seems too hard to do for longer than a week.
Elphaba from Wicked.
From Wicked, yes, from the Broadway musical Wicked. I've wanted to play Anne Harada in Smash at one.
That was one of my questions. If you could trade with somebody to do one of their roles.
Definitely Anne Harada, definitely. Oh God. She's so disgusted with me.
I don't know. I feel like there's some great roles out there that I don't think I personally have the chops to play. So I wouldn't pick those. I would pick. I'd like to play Dolly in Hello, Dolly. I'd like to play Mrs. Lovett. Harriet has played Mrs. Lovett. I'm very jealous of her. I think every musical theater actress thinks about playing Rose in Gypsy. At least people of the character persuasion do. Things like that. Those are, like, to me, mountains that would be great to climb someday. But I can't stress, I want to go back to the previous question about, like, marketing yourself. It doesn't matter. You don't need that. You need to get out there, do stuff with people, do stuff with your friends. I sort of feel like that's the way, because only once you start working with people, they'll think of you for the next thing, and it all sort of snowballs. You don't all have to play in the same field. I don't need to be a movie star. I don't need to be a TV star. I like acting for acting's sake. I'm happy in a little box in the East Village, and I'm happy on Broadway. Do you know what I mean? And to me, it's all the same. You're performing, and you're trying to bring truth to something.
And I think one of the things that's that distinguishes actors is why they want to be an actor. Some people just think, because I want to perform, I want to entertain. Or some people say, because I love that sensation of all that attention. I like all eyes on the high board and being on the high board. I like, I don't mean that. I like to tell a story. I like to relate to people. I'm a little usually scared of people unless it's a situation like this where you're really far away from me. So, but it's a great way for me to communicate ideas that are usually formulated in a much more succinct way than I think. So it's a chance to engage and educate and say this exists in life, and it's a safe way for you to look at it, and it's a safe way for us to talk about it, and it's challenging at the same time. So people are actors for all sorts of different reasons, but you really have to, I think, devote yourself to what you expect to get out of it. And I think that what Anne was talking about it being just as credible, it's true. It doesn't matter. Actors generally feel successful if they're acting. And you don't have to make a lot of money unless your goal is to make money, and then you really shouldn't be an actor. You should really be something else if that's what you need. And really, if you really need a lot of attention, you should be something else. So, and I'm not saying you, but I mean one should. So, but the more you can define what you expect for it to bring you or want to contribute to it more, like Santino was talking about, the more you can define that, the happier you probably will be, and the happier you are as an actor, you'll have more longevity, I think.
Nice. Yes. Next question.
Hi guys, I saw the play and I loved it, so it's really fun to see you all in person. My question is if you have any embarrassing on-stage moments from either Cinderella or a previous role that you'd want to share with us.
It's an ongoing embarrassing moment.
Tell the story. Tell the story. Yesterday.
Yesterday? Yeah. All right. We're approaching our 200th show. I really love the show, and I really love everybody in it. And possibly I'm sleep deprived. I don't know, but I got to a certain point in the afternoon, and of course I just couldn't think of the next word. And this it starts happening in your 40s, and it continues. But so I say, oh, isn't it wonderful how the needy just keep on going? So I'd said, isn't it wonderful how the needy just keep on moving? So I thought, okay, that was bad. And I look over at and Marla's like, because Marla's so young, she doesn't make mistakes.
Not true.
And Anne is like, oh, how bad is this going to get? This could get really bad. Harriet's got more lines to go. So anyway, in the evening, I thought, I am tired, but I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I got to, isn't it wonderful how the needy just keep on. I couldn't remember going. I couldn't remember moving. I just thought, what's something like that? And so it was like really like it started to sound like a Katharine Hepburn impersonation. Isn't it? What about the needy just keep on? And I thought I'm gonna say keep on trucking. I know it's gonna come out and it's gonna be like some R. Crumb cartoon where this guy is gonna cry. But I didn't. And it just finally I came up with moving again, and both Anne and Marla sort of looked.
I always look at her. I always smile at her afterwards to see, because I want to see her break or see if like she'll giggle or something. So the next line she said completely up to the ceiling because she didn't want to make eye contact with us, which then made me laugh even more.
And it just got worse and worse, and I was so overwhelmed about having made that mistake. Then I came back in the next scene, I thought, oh, completely recovered, it's fine. A few scenes later, well, I run in with this invitation, and now the prince is not giving a ball, he's giving a banquet. And I can't, and I run in, and I have to shut the door, and I ran in, and I went, you didn't shut the door, you gotta go back and shut the door. So I go back and shut the door. And this is a line that I do all on one breath, because it just has to be that way for there to be a response. And so I go back and I'm running, and the costume's like 40 pounds. So I'm running with it, going back, running, shutting the door, and then I lose the invitation. And the invitation flutters out of my hand, and I go over, and I'm so awkward because I've got this huge soup skirt on. So I'm trying to get down, and I can't get the invitation. And then I thought I had it, and I came up, and it's empty. So I had to reach down again. Get the invitation.
And I'm on stage with her once again, watching this entire...
It was like my life is flashing before me.
But you would never notice it, and that's what I love about it, is that it's so subtle, and the only people that can tell what's happening, well, maybe not just trying to get it on the floor.
It's a little awkward.
Well, but like the prior scene, like the keep on moving. No one would tell, but we can tell, and it's just a flicker of the eye, where you identify, oh, that was a little screw up there. I caught you.
Vicky has gotten stuck in midair a couple of times.
Our set has stopped.
So, and none of, these things are accidents or they're
There's
mistakes,
Godmother.
but nothing
Fairy
horrible
Godmother.
really happens other than humiliation. So.
I came in all my armor at the very first scene. I come in all that armor, and I step up on a tree log, and I pose, and there's like a big light that hits me, and trumpets play, and it was like, yay, and I fell. That happened yesterday, where I was like, no. I just went back, and I went back up again. Oh, it's terrible.
Next question. Yeah, I think we're running pretty close on time here.
Hi. Two-part question. One is, what is each of your favorite Broadway shows? Doesn't have to be one you've been in. Could be one that you've seen. And then also, when you are going and you're in the audience seeing a show, do you find that you probably experience it differently than we would? What are the things sort of that are you thinking about what they're doing backstage? What sort of goes through your mind?
I think about that. And also it's a lot like high school because it's such a small world that I feel a lot of joy because I see, we see like all of our friends on stage. It's like we know somebody in almost every show. So yeah, it's a fun experience for me because I get to see the people that I love doing their thing. And yeah. That's me.
What's your favorite show?
Oh, Ghost, the musical, which only ran for Really? Oh my God. Everyone hated it. I loved it. I saw it 4 times. I took him to see it.
It was an experience.
It was an experience to say the least. I loved it. But also, I love of course Gypsy and Sunday in the Park with George and all the the good old. I'm a purist at heart as well, even though I love Ghost. But I like a lot of the old fashioned ones as well. That's what I was raised on. So all of them. I don't know.
I guess my favorite show I ever saw, and I don't think that's really true anymore, but it may as well be true because it's the one that hit me the most viscerally, was the Sweeney Todd that Angela Lansbury and I saw Lynn Cariou to do it, and it was wonderful. I loved that show, but sometimes I go see things now, and the things that I'm most thrilled by, it's not what the audience adores, because sometimes I think the audience expects so much now, and they don't always recognize that this incredible little thing just happened, and people don't know how hard that incredible little thing is. And sometimes it's just two actors talking to each other for a few moments, and it's just the whole stage just seems to vibrate and shimmer because they're so incredibly good. And you just think, I hope that everybody's getting that, but it's not the thing that people leap up and go wow about, and I kind of think, but why aren't we leaping up and going wow about that stuff? That to me is real artistry and so beautiful. So that's what I get excited about most of the time. That rules your times.
My favorite show was also that production of Sweeney Todd that I saw the day it won the Tony, and Nicholas Nickleby, the Royal Shakespeare Company's 4-hour version of Nicholas. 4-hour version of Nicholas Nickleby. 4.5 hours. It's awesome. I feel the same way. I feel like we go to see shows and we are judging them from a totally different perspective almost. And so for me, when I see a particularly amazing performance or a scene that makes my heart go, oh, that was perfect, that's what sort of sticks in my head, as opposed to that was a really cool set. I never think that.
It's funnily enough, Sweeney Todd is also my favorite. And I saw the videotape of the tour of the Angela Lansbury with George Hearn back when I was a kid. Someone from my high school showed it to me, and I thought it was incredible. So that, and I think, we're more critical, but it's more. I think it's probably the biggest difference is it's just much more casual. Like my parents come and they oh, we got to go get dressed. I'm like, no, you don't. I'll go wearing whatever. It's just much more and now we're gonna see a play, or we're gonna go. I think that's probably the biggest difference. And I also don't, to be honest, especially when you're in a long-running show like this, the last place I want to be on my day off is a theater. So we've got tickets. I'm like, I don't want to go to that. I'm sure it's great.
We got time for one more, guys.
Yeah, we got one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my first comment is for Santino. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to the next season of Submissions Only.
Oh, thanks.
And my question has to do with the promo video, and whose idea was it to pair Sir Mix-a-Lot with Cinderella?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was mine. That was my idea. Submissions Only is a web series that basically got started with the girl who was asking about if you want to do this. A bunch of actors who weren't working at the time. She got a camera. She wrote a script, and we just started doing the show, which kind of has had a kind of great following online. And there's 3 seasons now that we've shot. The 3rd season's about to come out. I had the idea. I had a lot of time in tech, which is very slow, and you're working on one scene at a time, and they're doing lights, and they're doing the set, and they're doing costumes. So you have a lot of time off. And I was like, and one of the taglines at the beginning of the marketing of Cinderella was "Glass slippers are so back," which they were hoping would both, combine the modern sensibility that we have, but also the glass slippers. And I was thinking of Baby Got Back. I was like, I don't know why, but glass slippers are back. It just got in my head, and I was like, that'll be fun. Let me play around with that. So I wrote out lyrics to it, and it's basically the same idea, the same premise, that these people are obsessed with this one body feature, and in this play, everyone's obsessed with these shoes, these glass shoes. So I just, keeping everybody's kind of personalities and skills in mind, I just kind of wrote this, and then I started seeing like the picture, and then Robin Goodman, the producer, was like, that's great, you should make a music video out of that. And then I kind of was like, yeah, and I put together kind of a shot list of like, yeah, it could be this and this and this and this. And we could do and there was a green screen upstairs, and I was like, we could use a green screen. And then one thing after another, and I brought everybody up into my dressing room with my little mic, which I do those Excedrin things on, and had everybody record into them, and then that was it. I had done something similar a couple years ago with the Importance of Being Earnest. Yeah, I did a parody of the Jersey Shore Gone Wild videos, which went viral, and which was great. And I love that. I mean, it's just an idea that pops in my head, and like, yeah, here you go. And they were all great for doing it, and they're all brilliant in it. It's very hard to get people on board with something like that, because you have an idea, but it's so hard it's going to take you too long to try and explain it. So you just have to trust. Like I said to Harriet in that first shot when she's in the hallway and she's like running, I was like, all you need to know is you're regal and you're walking. That's it. And then she does the rest. And we did like one take, and we're like, oh, great, that's it. Yep, okay. And we go, and I was editing it during the show when I was backstage on iMovie. Nice. So yeah.
Well, I think we're getting kicked out. We're gonna lose the room. So we have to wrap up. Gosh, guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.